It's nearly 4 o'clock and I welcome you to my space. Let's wait a couple of more minutes for other people to join, and bear with me, I need to touch my screen every now and again. That might look weird. Hey. If you could all please mute yourself so we don't have any background noises. And I'm waiting for a couple more minutes for people to join. Well, I guess we can start. It's the top of the hour. Welcome to my space. And as you enter this space with me, I ask you to leave that rational mind of yours outside the door and come and join us with an open mind and an open heart. My aim today is to give you an understanding of what soul loss is about, how you recognize it, how it relates to what's happening currently in our world, and then give you a brief taste also of what it means to access non-ordinary reality. Let me start by briefly introducing myself. I'm a proud mom of 2 grown daughters. They left the nest, so I'm here, empty nester. I started my professional life with a corporate career. I hold a mathematics degree. And mathematics taught me 2 things, really. It taught me to see the underlying structure of things. So not just numbers, but any conversation, observing, I have a feel for what is there structurally. And it also taught me that I can learn anything. Because maths, you know, you need a very high frustration level to get through the studies. So if I can learn that, I can learn anything. I started my professional career mid-90s, and I worked as an IT project manager for Alcoa, an international corporation. And you may recall the last economic crisis, 2008, 2009. I got laid off. So in that period, really, I went through a big upheaval. That's like 10, 12 years ago. I went through a divorce. I lost my job, and I decided to move back to my home country. I had lived in Italy for 20 years, and I took up my girls and we moved back to Germany. So that is really a big uprooting, both very visibly on the outside. You pick up your kids and you close your home and you put them down in another place and you try to put in roots again. And on the inside as well, because since this was a turbulent time, I did go to seek both professional help and holistic help. And it got me to holistic studies. So I had a look at well, as we all maybe have done, look at our childhood, our upbringing. So there was some uprooting as well on things that I thought I knew about my childhood. I started holistic trainings with different native wisdom keepers, wisdom teachers. Starting in India, I got to know about the chakra system, the different energy bodies that I didn't know before were there. And I started to meditate. I'm a 10-year meditator by now, mantra meditation, 20 minutes twice a day. It really does a lot to your brain, and it helps you stay grounded and return to center quickly. I also studied with some teachers of the Native American traditions. I learned to journey, and I don't know if you can see this, we will use my drum later on to journey together and get a taste of what it means to access non-ordinary reality. And I got to understand that everything has a spirit. The tree, the rock that I can hold in my hand, and even a business has a spirit. So not just the simple things of nature, basically everything holds a spirit, and you can commune with it. You can ask what it needs. And then 3 years ago, I returned home, and you see the beautiful lake outside my window. I asked myself, I'm studying these traditions that are really not my own traditions. India is far away. I'm not from America, I'm from the north of Germany. So what was the native wisdom of the land that I live upon? And actually, if you've ever seen Vikings, that's where I'm from. It's close to Denmark, and we actually have a World Heritage site here that is a Viking site. So when I had just figured that out, to say, well, my ancestors were Vikings, so that brings you to Odin, it brings you to Thor, to Freya, the runes, the Norns. It's a different native wisdom tradition, and there are so many similarities. There's an anatomy of the soul, many different pieces really that I haven't found in another tradition so profoundly. And soul is what we're going to talk about today. So you see, I have this very rational, professional business background and integrated that with holistic studies. So everything I looked at that I learned about the single person, how I can work with a single person, I realized I can work also with a group of people, and I can work with the business itself. The business has a spirit. The business can have a power animal, and the business has a soul. And soul is what we wanted to talk about today. So soul, what is the soul? I guess you all have like a intuitive understanding that the soul is that part that is there more than your body. We have the physical body, which is the home, the house of our soul, really. The soul is at home in the body. So how can you lose part of it? I remember a boyfriend asking me, but the soul is always there. You cannot lose it. Well, you can lose pieces. When your body goes through trauma, when you experience a fearful situation, and you may have a memory of it, your soul can leave your body. It's like, imagine you have a car crash, the soul goes away. Or think of abuse, think even of a surgery. During a surgery situation, it's as if the doors are easier opened for the soul to leave the body. And as long as it's fearful, not everything might come back. So the danger is over, like the car crash is done, the body survived, you regain consciousness, and yes, your soul returns back into your body, but maybe not completely. There's a piece of it that is still fearful, that is sitting out there somewhere else. Another image that helps me to imagine it is to say, some people leave the body, some people freeze. I'm of the freezing type. So when I get fearful, I just hunker down and wait for the wave to crash over me. And when it's safe again, it's thawing really. And in that freezing and thawing, again, a piece of your soul may remain in the situation. Oh, it's a waiting room. Well, anyway. And what does it mean that you, wait a minute, I'm sorry, there are people who are waiting still to enter. Okay. So unfortunately, you've missed the part of the soul leaving the body. So again, when you're fearful, your soul may leave the body, and when the danger is over, you come back, but maybe a piece of it remains out there in non-ordinary reality. And I'm repeating myself now because some people have joined us. examples for this, we talked about it as a car accident. Actually, that happened to my cousin. And since she's been in this car accident, she always gets sweaty and fearful and insecure when she has to drive a car. She cannot really go through a narrow lane because she can't control that fear. And that is a clear signal of soul loss. If you have situations where you think, I haven't been the same since. I haven't been the same since that surgery. That's again a clear indication that that you've undergone a loss of your soul. It's also like a loss of your certain capabilities are not accessible anymore. Part of your life force is not accessible anymore. So I remember, for example, when I returned here, which was my childhood home, so imagine all the triggers, there was no joy, there was no playfulness. I was doing my thing, but something was missing. And since I'm trained, I realized there is something that I need to call back in. And in fact, there was a little three-year-old Wiebke who returned, very playful, very feisty, you know, this feistiness that hadn't been there before. And once you recall this piece of soul to yourself, you need to make it welcome. You need to make, and actually that was not done by myself. I went to a trained practitioner who supported me in that. And she gave me certain exercises or challenges to integrate, to welcome this piece of me home. So little 3-year-olds, what do they like to do? They do like to, I love to bake a cake with mom. So remember, you do the dough and then you put it in the oven, and then comes the interesting bit, you start to lick the dough from the bowl. So I did that, and there was this playfulness again, and this feistiness again of the 3-year-old who had returned home to me. Now, as I said before, soul loss cannot only happen to a person, it can also happen to a community. A family, if you've worked with family constellation, there's a vicinity to that, where you see the piece of the field of the soul that is missing from a person. That can also be a piece of the field of the soul of the family that is missing. There can be a piece of the soul of a business that is missing. And you can actually work with a business as an entity of itself to help people, to help the business return to power. And actually, we do have a soul loss event going on in Germany right now with a business. Don't know if you read about it, Wirecard. It's a fintech company. They were a small startup company, and they entered the DAX, the stockholder index, the stock market index, a few years ago. And now it's found out that there was fraud, and they couldn't close the books because there was money that was unaccounted for. There's been some dishonesty going on in the company, and from one day to the next, the people who work there, they don't know whether they have a job. They don't know who they can trust of their co-workers, who colluded, who didn't, who's honest. The future, will I have a job? And Wirecard on a resume used to be an excellent name, and it's not anymore. So I'm observing this as it's going on, the soul loss of a business. And well, I'd love to support them, but as with all healing work, you need to be called. You can't just go ahead and do something. And I couldn't really commune to them. Another big thing, obviously, that we're all going through, which also triggered this Truth and Reconciliation weekend, is COVID-19. And here you see triggers, I wouldn't say soul loss, but any soul loss that is there gets triggered on a collective level. If I speak for Germany, you have the government exercising power over the people. And yes, we went through it pretty well, and you have the people really, and you can feel the unrest in the country because the government has assumed powers over its people. Well, the last time that happened was the Nazi time, right? So people are very careful and very in an uproar, and they are triggered in in their, maybe in their parts of soul loss. And Germany as a nation, I feel, is triggered in soul loss. So we live, and the next bigger thing really that it's not only Germany, it's the killing of Floyd George in the US has triggered a wave of protest around the globe. So here we have a global, one point on the globe, you have the event, and then there's a wave of reaction around the globe. So we're really at a point where you could even, where you need to act globally. Racism, every country has their story of racism that needs to be addressed. It's not just people of color in the US or natives in the US. I mean, again, Nazi Germany, that was racism against the Jews. So there's a big part of history that still need to be looked at, that where soul loss may need to be addressed. We do live, and I'm convinced we do live in a unique time of upheaval and of triggering on all levels. People personally are triggered in their wounds. Families are triggered as they spend all their time in their apartments, and kids have to do homework, and parents have to work, and all the weak spots in the family fabric get put under pressure, as gets the fabric of the nation, as gets the entire humanity around the globe. So we're really living in a unique moment where personal, community, collective topics are up front, really. And which makes it challenging. And, you know, there's this phrase of saying we were made for these times. There are also so many healers, trained people, conscious people, aware people who see what's going on. That has never happened before either. Think some hundreds of years back, who were the people who really understood on a larger level what was going on? The wise women in the villages, or the wise men, the herbal people, the native medicine people. They had an understanding, but they were few, and priests and priestesses of the religions were there to look after souls, so to speak, but they were few. Nowadays, with call it the esoteric movement, or however you want to call it, so many people have started to wake up, have started to get trained in healing modalities, that as big as the trigger is, as many people we have to support the collective, to support each other. And that really is the reason why I joined this. I think that was one of the awarenesses that maybe Nilima, Kristen, and Karen, sorry, I haven't met him yet, I had in setting up this weekend, this awareness that there are so many people now who can do something, and we can live through this, work through this, if everybody steps up to the plate. So yes, I've been trained, and I haven't been seeing many people. So it's time for me to get out there and share my wisdom. And there are, maybe there are people who now, in listening to this talk, say, well, maybe I need to have a look at my own wounds and my own triggers to heal and evolve, and then continue to be a solid point in the community. So, and again, so I really think there's the unique moment of, well, challenge is such a much used word, a moment of triggers on all levels, and there are the capable practitioners out there who can support that. And I think that is really, really very unique. Yeah. So I would really love to get some conversation going. Maybe you have some questions. We can, I will unmute you, and we see whether that works. Otherwise, I will need to mute you one by one.
Hi, ma'am. My name is Aparna. I am calling you from India.
Hi.
Hi. So I want to know, first question, how long is the session? Second, I want to know what are we tending to achieve by the end of the session, please? Thank you.
But by this session, the session will take about an hour. As I said at the beginning, I wanted to just introduce the concept of soul loss to you and share the unique moment we live in. And then we do a brief journey to a supporting ancestor with my drum. So after this conversation, there'll be a 20 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes journey, and then another round of sharing. Somebody else with a question?
Yes, I had a question.
Yes,
Hi,
please.
this is Rinku again from India.
Hi.
While you spoke about traumas causing soul loss,
Yes.
is there a way that we can build that loss back?
Yeah.
How do we do that?
Some you can call back yourself if you're trained. Otherwise, usually I recommend to go to a trained practitioner, and the practitioner goes to journey into non-ordinary reality to invite this, thank you for the question, to invite this piece back in, to integrate it back in. The soul part left because it wasn't safe to be in the body. So here, and it stays in non-ordinary reality. So the practitioner goes and journeys and convinces the soul part back that it's safe, and maybe shares a ritual with you as a client, what you need to do to welcome this part home. Very often you need to kind of pay particularly attention to that piece that was lost. Like I said, my 3-year-old loved to bake a cake with me. And so you integrate it and you realize that you hold more power, more joy, you feel more whole. And this is a kind of, how can you say, it's not really a method, it's, well, it's a way of becoming whole that goes beyond what you can do with psychotherapy. Psychotherapy to me is talking, and which is a certain level of your energy field. Shamanic work goes to a different level. So you can reach deeper and integrate deeper, but through shamanic work.
Okay, thank you. So
You're
what
welcome.
kind of practitioner do I reach out to when I specifically look for this kind of work?
Yeah, to a shamanic practitioner, I've chosen during this lecture to not use, to not start with calling myself a shamanic practitioner, because I recently came across an article where a Native American really was upset about, how you call it, cultural appropriation, like a Western person using native tools. So in the advertisement industry, you would look for a shamanic practitioner. I will now talk, I'd rather switch to native wisdom practices, and soul loss specifically I've come across with Native American teachers.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for focusing on that.
So, ma'am, here, this is Aparna here again from India. Please pardon me for the, innocence in this question, but is any kind of shamanic practice a bit dangerous because it probably deals with higher energy than ourselves and we are not able to sustain it? And second question is it only to invite, like how do you know who do you invite from the people who have left? Thank you.
Say that again, please.
So my first question was, because of the energies that are concerned with something like this, is it, okay, I just added a video so that we can look at me. So is it safe for everybody? Not, I won't use the word safe, but will I be as ordinary human being able to take the energy that I'm reaching out to, because that's in a different plane altogether? That's question number one.
Yeah.
Question number two is...
Let me ask that first. So as a practitioner, obviously, I build a safe, energetic container in which we work. And that piece which left was part of you in the first place. So it is yours. It has just left, let's colloquially say it left for fear. So it is not higher, it is yours. And maybe you are now, you seem to be on a lower vibrating level just because you missed that piece, but it is yours and it's rightfully returning to you in a safe container. So obviously as a trained practitioner, you need to set up your space first to make sure that you only allow the right energies in, so to speak.
Right. Yeah, I guess that pretty much answers. Also, this taps into the ancestors, right? So in that case, which one do you choose? Like, how do I know which ancestor do I call out for?
Well, we will talk to an ancestor later in the drumming, and usually as a I would usually open up the question to my ancestors and ask who's willing to step forward. Same if I work with a customer.
I said, I already put my hands up. I said, I would love to.
Oh, no. We're going to do that together, really. We're going to, it's like I'm going to drum and you close your eyes and I'm drumming and you're all calling in the ancestor that's ready to help you in this moment.
Okay.
But,
wonderful.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah. Thank you.
I was actually, when I looked at the list of people who had subscribed, I was a bit, well, that's a lot of people from India. And you really have a tradition. You're already, it's so different pantheons or cosmology to what I was used to when I grew up. I mean, I grew up Christian. And so there's this one God. And that is so different. And there's just the 3D things that you can touch, really. So having so many people from India on the call, it's like, do I even tell you something new? Because you're so used to a much more complex view of the cosmos.
That's very, very kind of you. We are reaching out probably because we are seeking some answers and we are here, we are seeking some healing. And how does it matter whether you're Christian or Hindu or India or anywhere? I guess a soul to soul connection. That's what it is, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you for your kind words, really. Yeah, and I found that working with people who were trained in India, there's a big movement to go up. So the high light frequencies, that's what you're really good at. And you need to stay focused also to keep your ground. But the movement is really up. And shamanically, you start with the ground and you start with the roots, and it's like you're really standing there on your feet, and then you shouldn't forget to also be connected. So it's really two different kinds of movement, and it was very interesting between 2011, 12 and 13. I was doing parallel trainings with, say, more India-based teachers and shamanic teachers. So that was really, I was being pulled up and down, so to speak.
And what exactly is shamanic, ma'am? Can you explain what that comes from and what it is? I've heard the words, these are buzzwords, but I have no clue what it is.
It's really the, just like you have your native cosmology, your view of the cosmos, of the energies, of what is needed to be a good person in the world, the Native American tribes had their own view too. And this word shaman really comes from Siberia, I believe. These were the wise men and women of the tribes in Siberia. And there was an American anthropologist went to study the different native traditions and native tribes, and he kind of condensed the different modalities that he found in all the different tribes, be it in Siberia, South America, North America, to say techniques that can be taught. That is my personal understanding, it's a bit void of the cultural context. So you find people drumming in Siberia, the Sami in Finland, not so sure about South America, but definitely North America also, you have people drumming, and you use the drum to access different state, non-ordinary reality, a different state of consciousness. Like you do when you meditate, it's a different state of consciousness. Drumming, shamanic journeying, it's slightly different. For me, it's easier to go into that level of consciousness with the drum, because my brain doesn't interfere really. It's the drum that keeps me on track. And
Okay,
there are things like, well, soul loss is such a concept that you find, and things like energetic intrusion, so people attacking you, or energy beings attaching to you. That is something I've come across more in the Native American tradition than in the Indian tradition. With India, it was, yeah. Is that?
Thank you.
You're welcome. So I should use shamanic still, should I?
I have another question.
Yes,
If there
please.
is a loss of a family member,
Mm-hmm.
can that also lead to soul loss?
Well, what's your sense of it?
My sense is there's a complete loss.
Mm. So what prompted you to ask the question?
I think my prompt, sorry, just very emotional, just a moment.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't want to scare you off. This is a big audience of conscious people, so I think we're all holding space for you.
Thank you. I think the question comes from the space whether I can be repaired at all. I think, yeah.
Mm. I think with the journey that we're going to do, the drumming, we're going to ask a supportive ancestor to come and meet us and talk to them. And who knows, maybe it is that person that you're missing so much who's ready to come and meet you, so that you know they're not gone. They're just on a different plane.
Okay.
They're just on a different plane. And maybe there is a piece of you that went with them because you wanted to really not leave, and you wanted to go with them. And that's not how life works. You're needed whole here to live your purpose.
Yes, yeah, that's the whole thing. I feel over a period of time, over the 40 years of my life on this earth, there have been so many traumas, and my soul has broken up so many times. I feel very incomplete, and no matter what I'm trying, I am trying to rebuild, but there's something still missing. The birth of my children hasn't filled that up. Marriage hasn't filled that up. And I don't know what I'm looking for to, make closures or to rebuild my soul. I'm missing my soul, if I can say.
Well, I think you said a key word there, to rebuild my soul, to bring closure. That's what you said, to bring closure.
Yes.
I think that's not something we can do in this big context. Feel free to contact me afterwards.
Sure.
Or look for a practitioner who feels right,
Okay.
The shamanic path is not, and here I am again with that word, but it's not always easy. You really look reality into the eye. You need to be willing to do that. Oh.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So are there other people who have questions? I think I unmuted you.
Hi, I'm Nitika from India.
Welcome.
Hi, and I just want to ask you, so basically I've never done something like this, the practice you're talking about, and it's a bit freaky for me that we would be calling our ancestors and we would be having a talk. So I just want to know, is it all right? If I'm a little scared, should I be doing this?
Mm-hmm. What are you scared of?
I don't know, maybe some part of it remains. I don't know, some energy remains, or maybe I'm not able to get out of it. I have no idea. I've never done it, but it's.
So obviously I set up a container before we did this call, and it is a larger call and it's in a larger context. If you don't feel comfortable at all, if you think it's not right for you, I mean, you are the judge of your own doing. So I invited you to join me because I can hold this container. If you still feel unsafe for whatever reason, you're free to not join, you know. And it's different, obviously, on a call with a lot of people to having you sitting next to me, obviously. So the depth of the work is different. It's not going to be as deep. You know, it's just like you need to allow it to happen. It's not something that I can force. It's not that I'm opening big portals and I don't know what kind of energies are rushing in. Obviously not. It's just you yourself, in allowing the drumming to guide you, also decide the depth of the work that you're doing.
May I put in a word, please?
Please.
I'm Alka from India, and basically we do, even I am practicing and shamanic journeys, and this is for those who are really scared are from India. We have shaman circles even here, and Shiva, Lord Shiva is said to be the first shaman. And in Nepal, they are using, we have in fact 4 shamans tribes in India we should be aware of. And when they say it is more of when you're drumming and journeying, it is a form of meditation.
It is.
It is nothing to be scared of. In fact, a lot of answers and lot of resolutions, and you come through these journeys. Kindly do not be scared. Deal with your fears if you're going to start off like that, because be very resolved at a space and keep your intentions absolutely clear. Shamanism is not a healing modality, it is way of life. Once you connect to it, it is marvelous. You'll find answers which you will never find anywhere else, because they're all going to come from within. And you might be your own ancestor. You know, you could be your own ancestor. You just come back for an experience all over again. And it is not by coincidence that we all have gathered together to form a circle today.
That is true. So, thank you so much. I'd be really curious to understand the difference you see with I call it the Indian tradition, Hindu tradition, and what we call shamanism. Do you see a difference there, or is it just a different native wisdom modality?
I have learned shamanism ways from Paul and Neelam in India.
Okay.
So I have done 2 workshops with it, and we keep practicing this.
Perfect.
So, and we are doing the same way. You're going to carry out a session today on soul loss.
Okay. Perfect.
Okay. And each shaman tribe all over the world probably have their own ways, but somewhere we all are connected.
We are.
Yeah, with a common cause, and
it's all about.
I mean, it is. Yeah, it's all about an experience and what you want to take back from this session.
I also
Thank
want
you.
to add. Yes, can I ask a question?
Yes, please.
I'm curious. This is Barbara from the United States.
Hey, Barbara.
Hello. It's wonderful to be in this lustrous group of people. Thank you. I have a question related to what is the difference between this work individually and as a community and a collective? Is there a difference between how it actually happens or the difference between how we experience it?
Yes and no. A collective soul loss, like of a family, I would always do perform the same kind of steps. So I journey to the spirit of the family, which then shows me what needs to be done. So it's rather what needs to be done is different for a community than it is for a single person. So I can go bake a cake and do my own thing. But for example, I was working with a client and they had torn down the central building of the business and rebuilt it. And I could feel that energetically, the spirit of the business was still hovering above the building. It had not re-entered it. So that call it soul loss. And it needed ceremony, really. It needed to call it back in and to touch the walls and to bring some of the old furniture into the new building. So the ceremonies that you perform are going to be different for a group than they are for a single person, but still ceremonies they are.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So for example, if I think about Germany, we were split, right?
Yes.
There was eastern and western part. And when the reunification came, our president, so everybody knows about the chancellor, there is a president who represents the people. He walked through the Brandenburg Gate, highly symbolic thing he did there. To me, that was the ceremony needed to bring the two spirits closer together. Not everything, but there was somebody who had an intuitive understanding of what needed to be done to bring the two parts of Germany back together again. So you won't know beforehand. It's shamanic practices are always direct revelation. So I commune with the spirits and I get the answers of what I need to be done. It's not my will, really. It is really bowing to the powers that know more than I do.
Thank you. That was a good example to use. That's great.
You're welcome. One more question, and then whoever feels tickled to. Yeah.
Could I speak? My name is Rashi. I'm
Hi,
from
Rashi.
India. I
Yes.
joined a little late because there was some struggle happening outside, and so I missed a little part. But what I wanted to connect more to was I was going to ask you like when you were talking about Indian shamanism, and I'm a shamanic practitioner, and my 10-year-old learned it along with me. So that's why I was explaining to everyone there's nothing to be scared of because there's a 10-year-old who knows it. In India, we worship the trees, the clouds, the mountains, the rivers, the earth, everything. And even though it has been converted into rituals and religion so that people practice it out of some compulsion, but the original thought is the same. So I was really looking forward to, bringing soul fragments back through something with nature. Because in Mumbai, I have very little nature. And I was hoping when you do the drumming or whatever process you're doing, we could bring some element, maybe a river or a mountain or something, as you felt comfort. Because, behind you, I'm only seeing water and trees. I don't know if this is real or it's it's a wallpaper. I don't know. And your hair are moving. So I can feel the wind. I don't know if it is the online gap, the phase lag in the electronics, or it's real wind. So I'm very... And I have a huge sense of deja vu the minute I saw you and the minute all this started to happen. I felt all of us have already done this once before, and my heart is pounding and I'm in a very different kind of a state and I'm very happy. I don't know how.
I'm glad for that. So the background obviously is a virtual background, and it is a picture taken right outside of the room where I'm transmitting from. Just you wouldn't want to see what's behind me. So I like the virtual background, but that's what I look at when I look out of the window. And not sure what you mean by a calling back nature. That would be something about the balance on the place you live at, and well, I'm sure there are gardens, you know, the nature is there.
Yeah.
There are different
I'll send
methods.
you a picture later from my balcony.
Okay, but there are different ways to strengthen nature that is there, to transfiguration, to like you really go high up on, you consciously bring your energy up and you focus it on, for example, on water or on a forest, and you strengthen it. That's something you can do, but that goes beyond what we're doing here now.
Okay, sure.
You're welcome.
Great.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, unless there's an urgent question still, I'd invite you for a brief shamanic journey. So you'd need to sit comfortably, close your eyes, and just listen to my drum and my words. There's going to be more drumming than speaking. I'd invite you to go to your favorite place in nature. That can be a real place, or it can also be a imagined place. It can be a beach, it can be the mountain, it can be a garden, a meadow, wherever it's really your favorite place where you know you relax in nature. And as we are then in that place, we're going to call in an ancestor. An ancestor can be a grandparent, it can be an uncle, somebody who lived before us and who's willing to step forward and guide you, maybe just for this question, maybe for a longer period of time. And you're going to ask him or her what you need to know right now. So a benevolent ancestor, helping ancestor, ask for advice, what you need to know right now. And I'm picking up my drum now. And I'm taking off my phone so you can hear it. So you should close your eyes and just listen to the drum and my voice. So from where you are, sitting on your chair or floor, imagine yourself to be sitting in your favorite spot in nature. Just take a look around. Feel the soil beneath your hands and your feet. Smell the air. There may be a light breeze on your skin. Take it all in. The beauty of the place where you're sitting. Behind you are all your ancestors, those who came before you. one of them to come and talk to you. One of them who has a message for you. Welcome them, him or her. And ask your question. What do I need to know right now? You may start to say goodbye to your ancestor. Thank them a lot for the wisdom they imparted. Slowly, they leave. And you're enjoying the wonderful place, taking in and anchoring the wisdom you just gained. And as you prepare to return to our ordinary reality, you thank the space that held you and the ancestor that showed up for you. And slowly, you return into your body and you come here to your seat in this circle. Keep your eyes closed for a moment and wiggle your toes, stamp your feet a little bit. Feel the earth beneath your feet and the chair on your legs. Wiggle your shoulders and slowly come back to us in the circle.
Someone has a speaker on. Can they please switch it off, please?
There is still a little bit of time, so if there's somebody who cares to share, I can still stay for a little bit. Okay.
So, yeah, so I did call upon my ancestors and I knew who came, my favorite person of all, and I just started crying. I did ask her what's been pressing me the most and what she knows my soul's dying. So I asked her, she didn't say anything much, but I hated to say bye to her. I just gave her a very big hug and she's gone. That's all I have to say. And I was crying throughout because just her presence made me feel so good.
Do you have any kind of meditative practice?
I don't have a meditative practice, but I do a chanting practice.
Okay. So that you may want to try and connect to her while you're chanting.
Okay.
Or just,
okay.
I find people that I'm very connected to, they're there for me when I need an answer. And
sure,
I'm glad
but I
that
did not get any answer. It was just
okay.
hazy. She was there and she left. She didn't tell me anything.
Well.
Yeah. Okay.
So Anybody else who would like to share? And you don't need to. It can be very personal. So we all respect that. Yes, please.
I could share.
Yeah.
And when I called upon the benevolent ancestor of mine, she named herself as Rukmini, and she's somebody I had not seen before, because I have had a number of ancestral journeys before. So she came with a word of warning that at presently I was having little issues with my employees. So this happened immediately just today. So she kind of gave me a word of warning that not to employ any of these three. And she actually pointed it out and showed them to me. And with an assurance that they are always behind me and they're giving me protection. And with that, and they said that you need to be joyous at the very moment, in the now moment, and be joyous every time. This is how you're going to really overcome whatever you're going to face in coming times. So that was it. And then she was dancing in circles, probably to give me a message to dance and be very joyous. Be joyous was the focus, I think, the focal and the prime reason that she had stepped forward.
Thank you for sharing that with all of us, because this time of Corona, it's easy to fall into fear, which will not help us get through it. And we do need to have a balance also of joy in our lives. Thank you very much.
Yeah, this was exactly why she said not to employ these three of them, because she said they are going to bring in disease into your house. So be a little careful. So that is the word of caution. Thank you so much for facilitating it.
You're welcome. Rashi, I think, wanted to talk as well. You would need to unmute yourself.
Yes, I did. I have never done an ancestral journey for myself, but in the channeling session for other people. But this was the first time, and it seemed that he was my first ancestors. Like many after that, in the end, and he came and he was very, very old, and he looked a bit like my guru, and we were looking at the ocean. We were sitting by the ocean, and he looked at, and he told me, and he sat down next to me, this old man, and he's talking to me. It was like friends, and he looked, and he said, tell to all your sisters, as in, the whole group that we are here. That's the reason I'm sharing. He says that all of you are always looking on the other side of the horizon, always looking of far, far away, there and then. And all you have to know is it's all here and now. The thing is, we know about here and now. But if somebody who's your family and just turns around and says, just look, and he made me look right there, like down, right at that wave, right at that second. And then we are on the rocks, and the sea is quite below. And then he dropped a little pebble in it. And he said that, do not get disturbed by the waves, on the superficial waves. Honor the depth that you all have. And I saw the pebble going down and down and down, and then it just rested there, and it was so restful and so still, and it was so nice. And thank you. And it was like he could see all the girls in the group. Yeah, that's all.
Thank you for sharing this with us, with the girls and the guys. I think we have some guys as well. There is still a little bit of time, but I know there's a full schedule this weekend, so we can
I would like to share something, if possible.
Yes, please, you're welcome.
Yeah, so me being here is, I've just followed my heart and arrived in this session. I don't know why. I have very recently lost a very, very close friend, and I was talking to his wife yesterday night, and I dreamt of them today morning. And I dreamt of another friend in my dream, and I was talking to that friend in the morning. Once I finished that call, I had this message in my WhatsApp which spoke about this conference. And I don't know how it arrived. I really don't know what everybody is talking about here, but it arrived, and I just followed my heart. I went to that website. I looked at all the sessions, and I've been trying to enter so many sessions since morning, and I ended up attending this session. And it's just you know, shaman that you're talking about, I have you know, no clue, and I just let go of my heart. And when you were doing the drumming, and so I've lost my father a few years ago, and I come from Himachal, so I could visualize myself sitting in that cold mountain Himalayan river, soaking my feet there, and I could sit next to my father and holding his soft hand, wrinkled hands, and I gave him lots of hugs. And of course, I think he just said, be happy. So today has been just about following what the universe is sending it to you.
Yeah. Thank you for the powerful share. Wonderful.
Hi, I'd just like to show you my drum. My name is Poonam.
Hi, Poonam.
That's my drum, and I was drumming along with you while you were drumming.
Oh, wonderful! Thank you.
And I had here are these three ladies. It's from Bath. It's the maiden, the crone, and the
the maiden, the mother, the crone.
Yeah. And we have a big tree on our farm, so I went in. I was by that tree, and I was drumming, and my grandmother, my grandfather, three uncles, aunts, and I was amazed that I knew so many dead people. I mean, it was many people. And my grandmother came up to me, and we didn't say much, but she was just there. And I had met, she's the only grandparent I have met. And yeah, it was just very reassuring. And I think the drumming was really nice because I haven't used my drum for a long time. I made this myself, and it was really nice to use it. Thank you.
You're so welcome. Thank you for sharing. One phrase I really like about the ancestors is to say, we stand on the shoulders of giants. They came before us and they did what they could in their life, and they fulfilled their purpose, and they agreed to have children so that we today can be here. So even if we don't know them, yeah. And if you have children, you know, you're such a giant as well, on whose shoulders your children stand. Take that in.
What would you say about people that wanted to have kids but never had and can never have kids? I'm talking about myself.
Thank you for being so vulnerable. Maybe it was just not in the plan, you know. If you imagine that your soul agreed before incarnating on the life's plan, maybe that was not in the plan. And I'm sure there are other things, and maybe it's that pain that, you know, that's that pain. Anybody else has an insight to that?
I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce your name. Is it
Wiebke.
Wiebke, okay.
Wiebke.
Wiebke. I don't know. Unfortunately, I didn't experience anything like the rest of them experienced. I don't know if that's because I was interrupted with my 6-year-old son just coming into the room. I made a mistake of not locking it.
They know. The little ones know.
Yeah,
they live there all the time. Yeah.
But yeah. I hope I don't know if, my ancestors can visit me at another time because of this calling, or do they only visit when something like this is on?
I believe they're always around us. You can always ask for a sign.
Okay.
No, a feather, or you will know what kind of signs your ancestors can leave. Obviously, it's more kind of a direct connection if you go to a drumming session. Do you meditate? Do you chant? You can ask them also to show up in chanting, I believe, because it's a way of accessing that other reality where they are so present.
No, I don't meditate. I don't chant, but I dream, and I've seen that my dreams come true. So when I lost my younger sister about 14 years ago, in about 3 months after she passed away, I was left with a lot of questions. And I dreamt that she had called me on my mobile phone, and the dream was set in my uncle's house. For some reason, I get a lot of dreams with the setting being in my uncle's house. And so this was 14 years ago. And she told me that she's fine. And she told me she'll keep visiting me often. And she told me she's fine. And that was a huge weight lifted off my chest. But after that, I haven't heard from her.
Well, these connections are made on a different level of consciousness than the waking state which we are in now. Dream state is perfect, and I'd say just if you just ask her, like before you fall asleep, and ask her to meet you in dreamland, in dream states, might happen.
Okay.
Or yeah.
Thank you.
Maybe that's your preferred communication channel, is dreams. I'm not so lucky. I rarely dream, and I don't remember them. So for my point of view, you're very lucky that you dream.
Thank you. I think that was one instance. And another instance, I remember my maternal grandmother, when she had passed away. And I think there was just once I had misbehaved with her as a teenager. And I carried that guilt for a very long time. I kind of really cursed myself. And I experienced this one night that my grandmother coming, actually hugging me. Actually, when I woke up, I knew that I had been hugged by my grandmother.
You've been forgiven.
Yeah, that's the sense that I got. So yes, I think dreams are my preferred way. I think I will talk to my sister.
Wonderful. I'm glad. Let me know.
Yes, I will. How do I reach out to you?
Yeah, thank you. So you're all registered for this call. So I do have your emails, and we'll send you the recording of our session. I'll try to cut out the drumming piece so that you could, if you want, journey on your own with the drumming that we did today. You can reach out to me either on LinkedIn or on my website, wiebkehansen.com. And maybe I need to add a phonetic spelling of my Frisian, of my Viking name. Viking Wiebke, you know. Wiebke means the warrior. So that's quite appropriate.
Wonderful.
So
thank you.
I thank you. I thank you so much for showing up today, for allowing me to present and to trust me with the journey. It's been a strong experience for me as well. As I said, you're on the list, and I sent out an initial email, and if you'd like to stay in touch, you can subscribe. you can book if you want to work with me, and you find me on LinkedIn and on Facebook as well. So thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, Wiebke. Really nice meeting you. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you for the interesting session, and take care.
Take care. Stay in touch.
Thank you. Bye.
You're welcome. Bye.